Hey guys, welcome to the Bill Barnwell Show. I am Bill Barnwell. Today you're noticing it is Tuesday evening, perhaps Wednesday morning if you're listening to this on your podcast feed or you're watching it on YouTube. We normally have shows Thursday morning. That's because there was a big news story in the NFL. The trade deadline hit, and I could not wait until Thursday morning to share my thoughts with you. And I could not wait to talk to our guest about this topic, a former NFL player himself. Jeff, were you ever traded? I feel like you were not traded at any point during your career.
I was not traded. Look, Bill, back when I played, the old guy here, it feels weird saying that, but it's been like 10 seasons since I played an NFL game. It's 2015 was the last time I played an NFL game. Is that like, this was not a thing. No one got traded at the deadline. It was very, very rare. If it was like mostly bit players, right? Like you traded a backup here, you wanted another 7th round pick. And now teams are so much more aggressive. And part of it, I think, is just like the youth of the general managers now. A lot of them, like, F them picks. They just don't care. Like some don't care. Some want the picks. And they're just like, we made a bad deal. Yep. We're moving on. We need a guy. Let's go get him, and we'll figure it out later. I like this NFL a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these trades probably not fruitful anyways, but I like teams that are going for it and then getting a lot in return.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly more fun for us, I feel like, as people who want to talk about trades. I mean, 10 years ago when I was writing trade previews, I'd be like, oh, maybe this guy will go for a swap of a 6 and a 7. Now, I underestimated. Anything and everything was on the table at this trade deadline, especially if it involved the New York Jets and the Dallas Cowboys. The New York Jets make 2 big trades here. By the way, I should mention our guest today is Geoff Schwartz, the all over the internet, a man of many talents and many places, but one of the best people doing it out there, one of the best Twitter follows as well at Geoff Schwartz. Geoff is joining us to talk about the NFL trade deadline, which involves several trades, one of which I'm going to start with here. I'll start with the biggest trade, the one that involved 2 first-round picks, which I was not expecting here at the deadline. I went on radio in New York this week and I said, it'll probably be quiet for the Jets. Maybe they'll move Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson. They did not move Breece Hall or Jermaine Johnson. They moved Quinnen Williams, which we'll get to in a minute, and they moved Sauce Gardner for 2 first-round picks to the Indianapolis Colts. A fascinating trade for lots of reasons. The Jets just signed Sauce Gardner to an extension several months ago, so very similar perhaps to the Odell Beckham deal, which of course you were nearby when you were on the Giants. And the Colts, a team that does not typically trade away a ton of draft picks. They draft and develop. They want to have their guys in their building. Yeah. Not anymore. Daniel Jones got hot, and they said, we are all in. 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. Jeff, I'll start with the Colts side of things here. How shocked are you that they actually went out and made this move for a player like Sauce Gardner?
So I think the hardest part in the NFL for a general manager is sort of figuring out the truth of where you are in the league, right? The best advice I ever got, a high school football coach told me, don't lie to yourself. Okay, it's great advice, right? It matters on the football field. It matters in life. And I feel like the Colts are lying themselves a little bit about where they are. So Sauce, obviously, if he can play to his capabilities, it's a fantastic addition to any team, right? But he hasn't been there in a couple of years. And maybe, I think it's fair to say that sometimes you ebb and flow with your team, and when your team is bad, you play a little bit worse. When your team is better, you get the best out of a player. So I would actually think Sauce plays better here. But this deal to me signals they're going to sign Daniel Jones to a long-term contract because you don't have first-round picks now to get a quarterback. Everyone says we'll draft a quarterback later. There are 3 franchise quarterbacks right now, and we debate if these guys are even franchise quarterbacks sometimes. Dak, Jalen Hurts, and Brock Purdy that were drafted after the first round in the NFL right now. That's it. So it's not so simple, just get someone else, get someone later. It doesn't work that way, right? Especially in the second round. There's been a graveyard of second-round quarterback draft picks
for sure
over the years outside of Jalen Hurts. So to me, this signals the Colts are all in on Daniel Jones, which, look, he has been great. They played 9 games. They played 9 games. In the last one we saw, and everyone was sort of like, well, let's see if they play a little better team, and they're outside, and the weather turns a little bit different. What do they look like? They look like a pumpkin yesterday. Now, it's 1 game. It's unfair to really use that game as a way to preview the rest of their season, but they're telling you they're all in on Daniel Jones. And that, to me, is the scary part. It's like, are they lying to themselves about how close they are to winning a Super Bowl? Because in the end, even though Chiefs are down a little bit, Buffalo may not be as good as we thought, even though they played well the other day, those are 2 easily the favorites. And then Baltimore is charging quickly as they get more guys healthy. So are the Colts one Sauce Gardner and then a Daniel Jones for the next couple of years away from a championship. I don't know, Bill, but I can appreciate them trying. Like, I would rather have them try than not try, but I think it's a pretty risky trade from their side for those reasons.
Yeah, certainly it feels like they've made a decision. And even if, like you said, even if they're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round, those 2 first-round picks were the best assets you had to trade for a quarterback if, for example, a Kyler Murray comes available.
Yes.
Just to pick a name, who apparently got benched this afternoon and then discovered his foot was more injured than it was previously.
How that works.
Yeah, it is. Those are the best assets you would go out to get a quarterback via trade. And so now you're limiting yourself to that as well. And I think that you sort of like, you're bought in. Like, I can't imagine looking at Daniel Jones and saying, yeah, he's going to stick next year. Like, just not how people think, not how coaches and GMs think. Like, they want to be right. And so I understand them saying, okay, even if he's not the guy he's been the first 9 weeks of the year, he could still be, Baker. He could still be the 16th best quarterback in football, the 12th best quarterback in football. Like, they could take a step backwards and still be really good. They're like the 3rd best offense in the last 25 years through 9 games in terms of points scored per drive. But you're absolutely correct. This does feel like an all-in with Daniel Jones move. And we've seen what that looks like when you're paying Daniel Jones $40+ million a year. It was the 2023-2024 New York Giants. And that team had first-round picks to try and surround Daniel Jones. They had a few first-round picks to surround Daniel Jones with. They didn't hit on any of those picks, unfortunately. But they at least had that to work with. And now, not only are you looking at, having Daniel Jones, but now you're not surrounding him with talent on the offensive side of the football. You have a lot of young pieces you like. The receivers are good. The offensive line's really fun. But you know what happens if Braden Smith retires? Now you don't have a first-round pick to address tackle. What happens if, you lose Alec Pearson free agency? Now you don't have a first-round pick to address wide receiver. You have Sauce, who is a great player at a position of need. And I think, not only do I think he might be a little better in a better situation, but also the Jets' pass rush has been terrible for the last year and a half. It has not been up to the level it was previously. They're going to have a better pass rush in Indianapolis. And I think from their perspective, their logic is just, hey, this is a guy who was a first-team All-Pro each of his first 2 seasons. Look at history. That's like a 5 out of 6 Hall of Fame rate. Like, it just, guys don't do that in the NFL. He's 24. He just turned 24. He's a young player. He's on a pretty reasonable deal when you account for the fact that the Jets have paid some of the signing bonus. They don't have to sign him to an extension as part of this trade, the way that, the Bears did with Khalil Mack and the Packers did with Micah Parsons. And I think with Lou Anarumo, we've seen how creative he can be, how effective he can be, especially when he has a secondary he trusts. I mean, I go back to that famous Chiefs Bengals AFC Championship game where he was the Bengals defensive coordinator. They decide to rush 3 and play drop 8 in the second half when they're getting blown out. They hold Mahomes 3 points, kind of flummox them, win the game. He has a veteran secondary now with a lot of guys he trusts. He has Sauce now, Travarius Ward when he comes back from the concussion. Cam Bynum is there. Kenny Moore's a really good slot corner. They can mix and match. They can do a lot of creative stuff with their fronts now because they have a secondary they trust. But there's a big but coming here, unfortunately. You mentioned those teams. Like, do you believe there is any scenario where this team, even if they get the Sauce Gardner they're hoping to get, that they can credibly finish the year as the 1 seed, which they are right now, and then they can beat the Chiefs and beat the Bills in Indianapolis?
So here's my test, and it's super unfair to Daniel Jones, but it just is. When the season's over and Roger Goodell's walking out with the Lombardi Trophy to hand it to a team, is Daniel Jones holding up the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the season? Like that's super unfair. I get it. You were projecting really out. I feel the same way about Sam Darnold too, by the way, like in Seattle. Sure. But like, that's, the sport has been dominated by quarterbacks in the top 5. Like, that's been the champions over the years. And, there are years Brady wasn't the best in a season, but obviously when the postseason came around, he was winning those championships. You could point to Nick Foles and say, no one saw that coming. Absolutely. It's totally true. It's also an extreme outlier. So if that's what you think you can do this year, go ahead. I wish you the best of luck. But that's the thing about it, right? Like, if they can hold a 1 seed, sure. But I don't think this team is going to Buffalo and winning in that weather in a late January game on the road in Buffalo. I don't think so. I could be wrong. It feels like absolutely.
They have to be the 1 seed. They have to be at home throughout the entire postseason if they even want to have a shot. And they could do that. They're the 1 seed now, but it kind of feels like you have a very narrow line to toe to make it to the Super Bowl.
I'm in agreement, and I just think it's going to be hard. Now, their schedule's a little easier than Buffalo's, I think. Look, here's what we'll do. The Chiefs play the Broncos, and then they play the Colts. And we'll know a lot more about the Chiefs and the Colts in Kansas City. Because that's just the litmus test, right? Can you beat Kansas City? If they win that game, I feel a lot differently. If they lose, I think we're sort of feeling the same way we feel about them now, where really fun season. Shane Steichen can clearly coach with a competent quarterback. How about Lou? Do you think he looks at the Bengals box score every weekend? It's like I did the right thing. Thank you for firing me. They did the right thing. Thank you for firing me. I'm done with this defense because. We were promised Al Golden would be better, and it has not been better. So, that's personnel issues, of course. But look, I'm not trying to take away anything from what the Colts have done, but this trade I think feels like a win for the Jets. When we can't grade it for 4 more years because the Jets' maturity of the draft picks aren't going to happen for a couple of years. But we'll see what they do with those and see if they can move up in the draft if they need to get the best quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would add about the Colts to finish up here on the Indianapolis side of things is this. It feels like if you're going to make this move and you're going to go basically all in, you're thinking we're going to be the 1 seed this year if we get our defense right. I think they had to make another move at this trade deadline. To me, they had to go get a backup quarterback they trusted. Because right now, Daniel Jones is the starter. He's been healthy. He's taken way fewer sacks, and that is fun to see. Their offensive line's playing really well. They have a great run game. But Daniel Jones has finished 1 complete season as a starter without getting injured as an NFL quarterback. 1. And I'm just nervous about going back to the Raiders a few years ago when they had Derek Carr. Derek Carr gets hurt late in the season. They're starting Connor Cook in a playoff game. The Cardinals had to start Ryan Lindley in a playoff game because Carson Palmer, and I want to say, was it Drew Stanton was the number 2 there? They're number 2 there. They started their number 3 in a playoff game. They lost. Anthony Richardson, we don't know if you want him starting in a playoff game. He's hurt anyway. It's Riley Leonard if Daniel Jones gets hurt. We'll see. Maybe the Giants cut Russ or something. Who knows? But I think if you're saying we can be the 1 seed if we're healthy in the playoffs, I think you had to get a backup quarterback you believed in, because I would hate to see them play really well, be the 1 seed late in the year, and then Daniel Jones, gets injured on a run, and suddenly you're looking at Riley Leonard as your, starting quarterback in the postseason.
I hadn't thought about that, but we've seen over the years that having a competent backup is super important in the postseason. Whether you miss a drive or two, if you miss a drive or two, you're retaping your ankle and whatnot. The Chiefs have, again, that's the Chad Henne and the Matt Moores have done a good job in those situations. But even if Buffalo had to roll out Mitch Trubisky for a half in a game, I think you'd feel comfortable with that being okay for a half. I'm not saying it's great, but you can get by with a half of that. You want to stick Riley Leonard in a playoff game for a half? Probably not where you want to be. But again, I don't even know who's trading a good backup anyways, though, unless you look at a Russell Wilson or you look at, I guess an older veteran that's not really doing very much. Maybe Joe Flacco was available again. Joe Flacco.
How many teams can Joe Flacco play for this year? And how many times can Mike Tomlin get pissed about having to play Joe Flacco?
Man, he's just sitting back. He's throwing the ball. The sack rate is so low in Cincinnati, right? Yeah. He's throwing the ball as fast as he can. He's doing a great job. It's pretty interesting to think about what's happening with that offense. It's been just as good without supposedly the number 4 quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. It's pretty wild, man.
Yeah, and they're still losing because the defense can't stop
so bad.
Anybody.
No.
Well, the good news is, a defense that couldn't stop anybody, Jeff, has apparently solved their problems. The Dallas Cowboys decided to have a very rational and reasonable reaction to their defensive start to the season. They trade a first-round pick in 2027, either the better of the 2 picks between the Packers and the Cowboys, some NBA trade logic entering the NFL, which I'm very excited about, and a 2026 second-round pick, and defensive tackle Mozzie Smith, who has not been very good so far as a nose tackle in the NFL, a former first-round pick for the Cowboys, go to the Jets for Quinnen Williams. And man, I find it so hard to discuss this trade because I think Quinnen Williams is a really good player, and I think this is a horrific trade for the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, so I've been trying to think of a way to talk about the Cowboys. So, Jerry Jones obviously has a full life, right? He has Cowboys, he has other business ventures. Yep. My wife also is she's a full life. She has a full-time job. Mm-hmm. She's a mother. We have things to do.
Of course.
And then all of a sudden she'll be on a Saturday when I think we're just sort of relaxing and calm. she wants to find chaos. Or she wants to go shopping. Like she wants to do something, Bill, where it's like, can you just be like in yourself? Like be like rooted where your feet are. Just like not have to do anything. That's the best way I can describe Jerry Jones. Like he just can't be still. He just can't be in his presence without having to do something chaotic or something that just like out of the blue, go shopping for something because he's bored. Like he can't just sit in his being. Like these trades are dumb. What's the purpose of these trades? You're 3-5-1, I think right now, right? That'd be 9 games. I don't even have the bye yet. You're not winning the Super Bowl. You're not winning the division. You're not probably a playoff team in the NFC right now. What does this do? It doesn't make you, in my opinion, much better next season. Again, you mentioned the Colts, like trading away your first round picks. Those are picks you can use to help you get other players you sort of do need. And you trade away the best of them all, Micah Parsons. Like it makes no sense what they're doing. It feels like Jerry's just bored and wants to be part of the conversation, wants to be part of trade deadline day. Quinnen Williams does not change a single thing about their season. He's a great football player, Bill, but it doesn't change anything that happened. It doesn't change what happened last night. Can he cover Marvin Harrison Jr.? Can he cover him? No, like, so I to your point, I don't know what, it's like he's bored. It just can't help himself. It just must do something at all times to give himself a little bit of life. I don't get it, man.
It reminds me a lot of the Al Davis era, when Al Davis was finishing up with Vegas, or with Oakland, I guess at the time, where it was just, there was a disconnect between how he saw the world and how 31 other NFL teams saw the world. There was just I want Randy Moss. We're going to trade a ton for Randy Moss. I'm sick of Randy Moss. We're trading them away for, a day 3 pick. We're going to sign D'Angelo Hall and then cut him after like 3 games after trading for him. It just felt, like when they made the Micah Parsons trade, I didn't like it. But at least you could make an argument for, okay, they're saying we can't win with 3 guys making a ton of money. Now we have 2 first-round picks. We're going to get some young, talented players with with those picks. We're going to, save money on those guys. We're going to have some money to spend in free agency and add some pieces. We're going to have a bigger team. We're going to have more depth. We're going to have a, not as much of a top-heavy team. I don't think the logic was good, but at least I could understand where the Cowboys are coming from. Now you've traded away most of the draft capital you got for Micah Parsons. You got 2 1s. You traded away a 1 and a 2. You're paying Quinnen Williams a significant amount of money. He does not have a very team-friendly contract the way that Kenny Clark does, for example, when they acquired him. He's making a lot of money. He's going to want a new deal in a couple years. He turns 28 next month. You just don't see this happen in the NFL. When teams trade away a 1 and a 2, it's for a quarterback or it's for a very young player in the prime of their careers. And Quinnen Williams, you mentioned, he's a good football player. He's a great penetrating tackle. He's good against the run. He's going to create some pressure on the interior. Matt Eberflus's defense wants that guy. I go back to the Colts with DeForest Buckner, having that, interior disruptor. That's a valuable part of that defense. He's going to be a good player for them. But the Cowboys were the best defense in football with Micah Parsons on the field and the worst defense in football without Micah Parsons on the field. Quinnen Williams has been on one of the worst defenses in football for over a year since the Robert Saleh firing in New York. He is not going to be a guy who single-handedly moves this defense. And by the way, Jerry Jones himself, didn't he say earlier this week, we're not a guy away or a player away? And the moves they make, they trade for Quinnen Williams and they trade for Logan Wilson, who was benched by the very Bengals defense we were just making fun of 2 minutes ago. It just does not add up.
This is, again, like, I would be like, I tell my wife, like, do you want this chaos? Like, why can't you just, like, be normal? Like, this
Settle.
It feels like he wants the chaos, right? Like, he wants, he has to live in this chaos. It has to live in this instant gratification. You're right. Look, when they trade Parsons away, you could at least say, we're building for the future. You can't anymore. You're trading away your picks again. Look, man. And what's crazy with the Cowboys, too, is, like, they've drafted pretty well.
Like, they're really good at drafting.
Like they don't give them credit for it. They're the best offensive line drafting team in the last decade. I mean,
no question.
One thing they've done really well. But they also, like, the Pickens trade was good. Obviously, Lamb's been good. Dak. I mean, you look at the offensive line and you look at the guys.
Javonte Williams has been good.
Like, it's they do some really good things and then just do some stupid dumb stuff. They don't. And this is, I think, what happens when you have, like, the player personnel guys. Will is, like, really good. Like, obviously, like, he's like, and then you have maybe Stephen Jones, maybe is, like, on that side a little bit. And then Jerry just swoops in and does whatever the hell he wants. And it just ruins everything the other side of the building has been doing. And it must be tough, obviously, to work there and have like this plan and vision in place, and then the owner swoops in and just like messes up for you.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to people in that building or people around the organization. I mean, the Cowboys have one of the biggest and most robust analytics departments in football. They make a lot of smart moves. They are thoughtful in a lot of ways. You know, Jerry Jones was the guy who wanted to draft Johnny Manziel instead of Zach Martin, and he got talked about by Stephen Jones. They try to build through the lines, same with the Eagles do. They are a team that invests heavily in their young talent. They want to sign guys early to get them on, team-friendly contracts, outside of apparently Dak Prescott for reasons I don't understand. They are very thoughtful in a lot of ways, but like you said, there's these moves here and there that just don't add up. They don't fit like the criteria. They don't fit the logic of what how this team approaches things. And that feels like Jerry Jones has his fingerprints on those moves. Unfortunately, they're also the most important moves. It's waiting until the last second to sign Dak Prescott and being stuck with the least leverage of any situation in football as a result. It's trading Micah Parsons and deciding we don't want him. It's now trading one of the two for Quinnen Williams to try and fix the problems you created when you traded Micah Parsons. Like, if you had told the Cowboys you can get Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark and like swap a 1 for a 2 for Micah Parsons, they would have laughed you out of the building 6 months ago. But that's exactly what they did. That's exactly how they've ended up. And I just feel so frustrated for the Cowboys and their fans because it didn't have to be this way. It's only this way because Jerry Jones decided, I'm going to make a bad move and then I'm going to compound it by making an even worse move to try and fix the first bad mistake I made.
And the thing about the analytics part was interesting because you mentioned this. I think I've stolen your tweet 100 times about Micah Parsons with them on the field and off the field, and how good they were with him on the field.
Yeah.
Just this whole thing about he can't stop the run. Who cares? He's paid to rush the passer. I want my pass rusher getting 20 sacks a year. I don't care how many TFLs he has. I mean, it'd be great if he could do that, but that's not what his job is. And so it just never made sense to trade him. I still don't get it. Yeah, he's been a little hurt this year and hasn't played quite up to I think what people thought he would, but his pressure numbers when healthy have been good this year. But and the thing about it is like Dak, this offense, whenever he's been healthy, it's been good. And a little struggles last night, but you're wasting like good offense. You're wasting these good Dak years that he has left, I think. And you're wasting it by whatever this team is around him. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and I look at sort of the logic of what they did, and I could see someone saying, okay, well, listen, they took the money they were putting to Micah Parsons, they put it towards 2 players instead. The issue is just, you can go out and get someone who's maybe Quinnen Williams caliber, maybe a little less. I think about the Vikings when they went out and got Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen this offseason. Those guys aren't as good as Quinnen Williams, but they're pretty good veteran tackles. They're going to help your run defense. You can find good to maybe very good veteran defensive tackles in free agency every year. You are never going to find a Micah Parsons. Maybe once in a generation, you might get a situation where like Julius Peppers hits free agency because there's a mess with the Panthers and he comes out and he's available. Or there was like that Lions situation maybe, 15 years ago where Ndamukong Suh, because they were in such a weird cap bind with the old CBA, he hit the open market. I know he's a defensive tackle. That's like once in a generation you might get lucky and have that happen. You're just not going to get a Micah Parsons caliber player unless you draft him. And the Cowboys could have said, okay, listen, we're great at drafting. We're going to draft. Maybe we'll get the next Micah Parsons. We'll get maybe 2 shots at a pass rusher. We'll get 2 shots at a cornerback, 2 shots at a defensive player. Maybe we'll trade those picks for more guys. Maybe we'll get, Jerry Jones would say when they made that trade, like, we're going to get 3, 4, 5 players. He was talking about it like they were going to multiply somehow. Now you don't. Now you know what you got. You got Quinnen Williams, and that's not going to single-handedly transform your defense. I wish it would. I wish the Cowboys would have a defense worthy of this offense, but they just do not.
They don't, and they're going to struggle now until they figure out who's in charge and what the best path forward is. But the Jets, man, 3 first-round picks, man. I don't think they could have done better than this. And look, you make the argument that they just basically trade away their future, and it's absolutely fair, but their defense stinks. It's bad. And it's not good because Aaron Glenn's a defensive guy, so that it's not great that your defense isn't good, but this gives you the ammo to get a quarterback. You're never going to be good until your quarterback situation gets fixed anyways, so it doesn't matter if you have a good defensive line, a good cornerback. If your quarterback's not the right guy, it doesn't matter. And they might be the worst team in the NFL. They might finish with the worst record. And these draft picks turn into defensive lineman or another wide receiver for the quarterback you're drafting. But this just gives them the opportunity now to have a lot of bites of the apple, right? Like maybe the first pick overall is not a quarterback, but we move back up and draft 5th overall and get a quarterback. Like this just gives them the flexibility to find the right guy that they need. And you cannot be good in the league until you find a quarterback. You just can't. It's not going to happen. So I like it from their perspective, just trying to just accumulate assets. We'll figure it out in April and May.
Yeah, and that's a situation where if there's a quarterback they like and they can get him, they already have a lot of the infrastructure you would want. They've invested a ton in their offensive line already. It's not like you're going to be sticking, Drake May out in front of the 2024 Patriots offensive line. They have some tackles they like. Armand Membo has been, pretty promising this year as a rookie. We'll see what happens with Olufashane at left tackle. But that's a offensive line they've invested a ton in already. They have a number one receiver in Garrett Wilson. They have the pieces where they could say, okay, if we get that quarterback, we plug him in, we're going to be good to go on the offensive side of the football. And like you said, it's not like we're breaking up the 85 Bears here. It's not like we're breaking up the 2000 Ravens here. This Jets defense has been terrible for over a year. This team has not had a winning record since you were in the league, I believe. It's one thing if you're breaking up the Chiefs and you're like, okay, we're trading away, Patrick Mahomes and Creed Humphrey. And okay, well, that's pretty crazy. This team has not been competitive. They've not even come close to making it to the postseason. So, you're not tearing down that much to begin with.
There was a tweet, reaction from a league source to the Jets 2 deadline day deals. They took a top 5 defense and tore it apart. What top 5 defense is in the room with us? What are we?
Yeah.
The talent's there, obviously.
No question.
And there was also a report too. The Chiefs offered a 4 for Breece Hall, and they said no, they wanted a 3. I would have taken the 4 if that was if they really offered you a 4. I think you just take anything you can for Breece Hall. Maybe the idea is Hall and Allen. You have this duo for the next quarterback, but a 4 is a pretty good draft pick for Breece Hall. And I would
for a rental.
If the Chiefs asked for that, I would have. That doesn't feel like the Chiefs would actually do that, honestly. But that if they really did offer you a 4, I would have said yes.
Yeah, me too. I think that's it's a pick at the bottom of the 4th round probably, so maybe they justified it that way. It's it's basically a 5, but Breece Hall is going to be gone this offseason if you don't sign him to a deal. And, you could very easily sign a running back to replace him with one or use one of the draft picks you got today to trade down and get a running back like Breece Hall. It was a 2nd round pick if I'm not mistaken. So I do think there's something they could have done. I think you want to strike a balance. You don't just want to trade anything for anything, get rid of everything you have for anything. I don't think that it should be like the Sashi Browns. I don't think that was a good look for the Browns. I think that set the organization back. But I do think there's a balance. And the 2 moves they made in terms of we'll see what happens with the draft picks. We just don't know what those picks are going to turn out to be. But if you separate and say, okay, what they do with the picks is a separate conversation. I think getting 3 first-round picks for Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner, getting a 2nd-round pick as well, that has to be considered a pretty significant return. I mean, that is I think it's great. You're setting up your franchise now for years to come if you do hit on those picks.
I think if you went into yesterday and said the Jets are getting 3 first-round picks for any of the guys they've traded, they would have been ecstatic for that. And you tell any Jets fan, question. And I know it's the Jets, and who knows if they actually do it correctly. But the number one thing it does is it gives you opportunity to get the quarterback that you want in this next draft. Yep. And the draft might not be as good as we think for quarterbacks. I love my favorite thing too, Bill, is I see people say, well, the 2027 draft is better. We say this every year. Every year we do this, right? We say that the next draft is the best draft.
Yeah.
But ends up looking every year, man, we're getting almost more and more quarterbacks to hit than we've had in the past, where typically it was 1 quarterback, that was it. But you look at 2 years ago and you look at the way May is playing, and Williams is getting a little better, and Daniels obviously is hurt, but Bo Nix, even Jackson Dart now playing well, the quarterbacks I think are better than ever. And so you'll find someone the idea that the next year, the 2 years from now is the year, we do this every year. Come on, guys. They'll find a quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, and if they can take 2 shots, it's not out of their own possibility. They can take 2 swings at a quarterback if they want to. You just have all that flexibility to work with. And, I understand wanting to keep your core guys. Those guys are good football players. They're going to miss Sauce Gardner. They're going to miss Quinnen Williams. They're going to be bad on defense the rest of the year. Oh man, if they could rerun that Jets-Bengals game again without Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, it might be a 100-point game. But like you said, this team has been looking for a quarterback for what? 50 years? I mean, since my lifetime, since your lifetime.
I mean, the closest they've gone was
Joe
Mark
Namath.
Sanchez for 2 years.
Yeah, Chad Pennington was good for a couple of years before he got hurt, but like it has been a grind for decades, and they've gone through Brett Favre, they've gone through Aaron Rodgers, they've gone through Ryan Fitzpatrick. This organization has to find a quarterback, and nothing is going to change for them. They are going to continue to be stuck in the mire of mediocrity until they get that quarterback. And if you get the quarterback, it's going to be a lot easier to fill in all those defensive pieces, a lot easier to find the guys around that quarterback. And nobody in the NFL is in better position right now to get that quarterback, whoever it is they want, than the New York Jets.
Agreed. Look, I think the best example is in your division, right? Where you have Drake May now into year 2. That offensive line's not great. The weapons aren't great, but he's a dude. He makes everyone better around him. And now the Patriots can add around him next couple of years. That's what you have to do from the Jets. It's 2 years from now. The quarterback you have, you might not have everything around him. I would argue that the quarterback's coming into a better situation than Drake May was with the offensive line, the weapons they have. And so if you get the right guy, I think you're on the right path, and you will look at these trades and think to yourself, we did a really good job here.
Yeah. And then finishing up here, a couple other wide receiver trades. The Seahawks go out and get Rashid Shaheed from the Saints for a 4 and a 5. The Jaguars get Jakobi Meyers from the Raiders for a 4 and a 6. Between those two trades, do you like one of them more than the other?
Yeah, Shaheed to Seattle feels like a good trade. Now, it feels like a hefty price, a 4 and a 5, but they just need one more. I mean, Cup they thought was going to be, I think, that second, third-ish option, just not been healthy. And you add, look, they are sort of a heavier personnel passing team. I think this allows them just a little more variety. They can just do a little bit more now. And more's better. To me, the more ways you can win, the better you are. I like this trade for them. And so I think with Seattle, everyone's just hopefully, like, not hopefully, but like waiting for that, is Darnold going to turn into a pumpkin moment like we saw last year? If he doesn't, it's a really good football team, right? They're good on defense. Offensively, their numbers are great. They do a lot of fun things on offense. They can't really run the ball, but who cares because it's a passing league. I mean, I think in the postseason, you want to be more balanced. You'd like to have a little bit more in the run game. As far as the Jacksonville, what are they doing, Bill? I have no idea what they're doing. I know that their GM is F them picks from the Rams. I get it, but like, you trade up for Travis Hunter. I think you butchered that whole thing. You got to play in one position. You can't do both. You just can't. But they trade up for him. They want to make it a big deal. He plays both positions. He's already hurt. No one's fault per se, but he got hurt playing corner at practice. He should be playing wide receiver in the NFL. Like and then you trade 2 draft picks for on your team, he's a third wide receiver? 3 or 4-ish, depending on when Hunter comes back. And it's a rental too. He's a free agent after the year. And I mean, maybe he can catch the ball, which would be nice, but I don't really look at Jacksonville again. Like, are they Jakobi Meyers away? I mean, Trevor Lawrence has got to play a little bit better, right? Just like there's a little moments where you're like, I need a little bit more from Trevor Lawrence. I don't know what Jacksonville's doing. I don't get it, but I like the Seattle trade. That made a lot of sense to me. Yeah, I think Shaheed is a deep threat in their heavy play action attack. Makes total sense. Just see him hitting, running deep post past safeties. Totally buy that. Well, Jags, can you go deep against quarters though? I was curious about. Is that something can we do that in the NFL? Or, you have to. The best people to ask are people who have coach in their handle on social media, because that's how you know. I told Mina, by the way, that I learned a lot about cover 4. I was like, thank you for doing this, because I'm trying to learn like more stuff about secondaries and coverages. Yeah. I learned so much about quarters coverage over that 3-day period. Like the best Twitter accounts that do football were like, here's the route concepts, and here's Mills, and here's the stuff you do. I learned so much. I had no idea, Bill. So I texted her. I said, thank you. I know it was bad but I did learn a lot. I learned a ton, man. Yeah. Unfortunately, Mina is the first through the flame, and so we are the ones following up. I know. Learning as a result. It's terrible, but yeah. Yes. But the Shaheed trade, I think, makes sense. Myers, I mean, it just feels like they're a team where they're investing in wide receivers like they have a rookie contract quarterback. And it's like, okay, we just got to surround this dude with as many guys as possible so we know what we have. But Trevor Lawrence is making $50+ million a year. Like, he is not a rookie contract quarterback. And that, I think, is the part that I find so difficult, is just they're investing so much at receiver and they have holes elsewhere. And it's not really seemingly making a difference in making Trevor Lawrence any better. Well, their goal this year I think very clearly was to find out what they had in Trevor Lawrence, because this coaching staff and front office didn't draft him. They have no ties to him. And maybe this is one more way to figure that out. Certainly fair. But I look, Kyler Murray's gone to Arizona. I do wonder if Trevor Lawrence is going to be in Jacksonville next season. I don't know what the contract looks like. Probably not great to trade him, but at least they're trying. Maybe the idea is if we get one more wide receiver, we give ourselves another look, and we end up having enough guys for someone else. But I just don't know how this makes them that much better or changes their path this season.
Yeah, and it just feels like you're running so low on draft capital. You're now down a 1, a 4, a 6. You traded a 6 for Tim Patrick as well. And I just don't know. I don't feel like they're an all-in team. But hey, I learned a lot today about how NFL teams view themselves. And like you said, Geoff, to bring it full circle, some teams lied to themselves today. And I think they're going to find out the truth in the weeks to come. Geoff, thank you so much. Where can people check out all the work you do every week covering the NFL?
So it's pretty easy. Go to my Twitter, at Geoff Schwartz. It's Geoff with a G. I put everything out there. You'll be able to find it. And a lot of fun being with you, Bill. Thank you.